So I'm going to start
Ed.
the State of the Guild address.
Ace Slayer has requested to speak on the stage.
Oh, already.
I have invited him. Let's see. Griffin, I'll kick your ass in StarCraft. Name the day, week, and time. You trash talking my fucking Stark. Right now, I'll launch.
I don't think Ace Slayer actually had a question. So.
Oh, it's gone. All right.
Okay. So welcome everybody to State of the Guild 6.0. I believe it's our sixth one. I don't know, man. I've lost track. It sounds right, so we're going with it. So kind of the first thing I was going to just say is I was just going to mention kind of past events that have happened in the last month or so. Is we did, if you weren't aware, which I think most of you are, but we did merge with Chronic Smokers, so we ended our alliance. We're very happy to have them all with us, so we didn't have to split from them permanently because we like those guys, except for Liquid Code because he's in the audience, so we hate him. But other than that, we love having all of them.
No, you can't Liquid Code.
No, you can't Liquid
You're
Code.
gonna
You're
get
lying.
gaslit.
You can't hear us. So we're happy to have them. But that is the thing that happened. There is potentially we'll look at another alliance sometime in the future. It's in the air. But the next thing that I'm going to bring up, I don't have a whole lot of points for the State of the Guild address, so it shouldn't be too long. But hideout placement. We've had people asking about it. We have already gotten and built our hideout, like the actual item to place. We already have it; it's ready to go, and we're planning on posting that, or we're going to be planning on posting the event for it probably tonight after the Ava, or as soon as we have the templates set up correctly that you want lost. Because I don't know if you're going to want to change the template you have or anything, but. Either way, we're going to be trying to post that tonight after the Ava.
Oh, yeah.
Which, if you haven't signed up for, that's happening at in about 2 hours.
We already got a solid amount of sign up.
True.
I don't have an 8.3 map, but I do have the silver to purchase one. But I most likely will probably just do like an 8.1 or something.
But we are, but yeah, that'll be of course on our brawl style comps more than our, not our old school stuff. So we're switching up our comp. The new comps, the new builds, and everything is what we're going to be using. And I was also going to say with the hideout placement, there's a possibility. We've been talking about it. We're just not sure because it depends on how kind of guild funds go for the next, until the event happens. But it is possible that we might actually have the guild fund everybody's set for the hideout placement so nobody has to worry about losing any money. It'll all be paid for by the guild because we've come into a chunk of money lately. So that is a possibility. It just kind of depends. But bare minimum, we're going to be raising the re-gears for that event. The exact number is yet to be determined, but bare minimum we'll be raising the re-gear prices for that if you do die. Also, I will say that if the guild does fund the sets for you, if you don't die and we manage to place it, that set's yours. You get to keep it. But possibly we'll just have the guild fund it. So that's kind of it. We'll be placing that event after the Ava. And then I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more. Lost might be better at this part than I am, but a little bit just kind of talking about how we feel like PvP has been going for us as a guild. And in short, I'd say it's going pretty well. I'd say it feels like we're winning more fights. It feels like we're working together better as a team. I don't know how you feel, Lost. If you have anything specific you wanted to say about how the builds are working together or how it's working.
I'd agree. I think overall we're doing a lot better. Like, there's not a lot to be said, really, just because of the fact that we're doing good. The small scale comps are going better. I'm also playing StarCraft and beating Griffin's ass really quick.
I do feel like it's I do feel like we stand a much better chance of replacing that hideout this time around.
Agreed.
I believe we're still planning on going to the same zone, but
yeah, 100%
could possibly change. But everybody wants their beachfront property, so that probably the same zone is the goal. Now I'm gonna give this one to you, Lost, 'cause this is the one you wanted. But it feels like a thing that I haven't put in the State of the Guild address for a while, so we're going to go over it again, which is comms discipline. Just because it's been a while since we've talked about it, so we're gonna kind of do a little refresher, just in that when we're in a lethal setting or we're in something, like in the fight, it's definitely something that we need comms quiet, right? The random tidbits of information like, oh, there's this resource node right here, or oh, there's this, that, or the other thing. That information is honestly not important. We don't need it. We don't need to know if you're dying. Honestly, half the time, we don't need that information, and it is much better off if you just stay quiet. Do you have anything you want to add, Lost?
No, I think that's good. I think I'm going to be a little bit harsher in the future just because, like, the worst feeling is when you can't hear the shot caller and then you die because someone else can't keep their mouth shut. Like,
Yeah, and
99% of the 99% of the guild is adults. Like, if you can't control your mouth, then I like don't come on the serious events. Like, it's one of the most frustrating things to deal with. It's one of the most frustrating things to interact with, just because of the simple fact that, like, it's adults. Let's not be sitting here talking about random shit in the middle of a fight. It's just not good for any part.
yes. And especially, and that's one thing that I've noticed a lot too more recently, is that like if you're in a fight, and you happen to die, but the team's still fighting, like you're dead.
And
You no longer
people
have
don't
any valid
know their
information to
skills.
hand. Like you probably don't have any good information to hand the team anymore. It's possible you do, but I doubt it. So that's one thing that I notice is people will die and then they'll just be popping off talking about like, oh, I would have got out, but this happened and this happened, right? And it's like, yeah, we let the rest of the team get out safely and survive first, and then you can pop off about, you know,
Whatever it may be.
all the things happened. And that is one thing too, Mayor. That's a good point. Is echoing. Try not to echo what other people say. Try not to echo the shot caller. Um, and try to just keep, because once is enough, or at least once should be enough. So that should help keep people. That should help keep people in line and stop just the kind of noise pollution that can happen sometimes when we're in a big 15-man group fighting people, right? Um, so another thing we're gonna kind of revisit here, and this is just kind of a brief revisit, is we're just gonna kind of go over the loot splits again. Um, just one thing we want to make sure that everybody's doing, like especially for you shot callers, is just make sure that you're claiming the loot splits when you run an event or whatnot. Honestly, and if you're a shot caller, like even if your shot caller, like the guy running the event, forgets to do it, like you can help out a little bit and just in the loot split pay or tab, just put in there like, hey, these were the members here for this loot split, so that way we know. Because I think right now we have two loot splits in there, like two tabs with stuff in there, and nobody's put in who they belong to yet. And so for the people that do the loot splitting, which is a large part, it's Mare. And if she's not there on that event, she has no idea who is there, who those chests are supposed to go into, or anything. We also want to try to make sure that you guys do your absolute best to try to keep the loot splits at like a number that's like worth doing a loot split for. Like like I will say one of those tabs is like a 700k total in the whole tab that's like, unclaimed. And I'm like, that's the kind of thing where it's like I feel like maybe that could have just been sorted out amongst yourself. Cuz it just wasn't a lot of loot, right? So it's just a little bit of things we can do here and there to kind of help out the loot splitters not have as much tedious work, so to speak. Just kind of help them do their jobs a little bit better. And I understand sometimes like an event will start, and you'll start putting stuff into a loot split, and then something happens that ends the event early, and I realize that happens. So like, it's not a big deal. I'm just pointing it out that like if you can, and you think it might be a smaller split, try to keep it, something you can handle yourself. Let's see what else. Make sure loot split. Mare also thinks that everybody in the guild sucks until she gets a Caerleon bunny. So everybody better get out there and start trying to find her a Caerleon bunny, or she's going to get really angry. They only cost like 45 million right now, so no big deal, no pressure. Also, current events. I was going to say, cool thing. We got. If you weren't there with us, we did manage to snag ourselves another mammoth, which was kind of nice, kind of spur of the moment. We just were wandering around in the red zone, saw a large blob on the map, and we were like, that looks like potentially people are fighting over a old white aspect. And then we called together some people that were online, got a whole group of 15 people together pretty quickly, I'd say, all things considered, and then managed to take it down, chase off the groups that were on it, and then get the mammoth and get out. So that was a nice 10 mil loot split for each person. Well, 9.5, something like that. But yeah, so that was a nice current event thing that kind of happened. So that was nice. But I didn't have a whole lot of points that I wanted to talk about during this State of the Guild address. Is there anything anyone else feels like they want to talk about that's like happened in the last month or so? If you do, you can click the raise your hand to like speak on stage, and then I can call you up. I don't know what you're trying to say, Midas. Oh, Liquid Code's got something.
Hey guys, I just wanted to say thank you for your, welcoming us into your guild from Chronic Smokers, and how, gracious you guys have been and patient and understanding and all that sort of stuff. That's it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to.
Yeah, I hope you guys have been feeling welcome. We've been kind of, it has felt a little bit like we've been dragging some of you guys like out into the black zone and stuff, and kind of like, there's been some getting killed, but I think that's all part of the game, and we're all just gonna die over and over again until we get better. So we're glad to have you, but there has been a little bit of I think I've noticed a little bit of what's the word, shell shocking, that's not the right word, culture shock almost, and just kind of a little bit of a change of play style. But Midas has got something.
This is just something that I wanted to say. I think it's just something that's super necessary. There has been basically a replete of people that are disenfranchised now that the EU, now that a lot of people are moving over to the Asia servers, the E servers. So I will literally see like 4 different people or like 5 different people like every day talk about how, oh yeah, all my friends are gone. They all left to the Easters. I have nobody. We need to start. I feel like we need to start like a recruitment campaign so that we can get people that are on NA timers into this guild. I feel like there's a lot of like missed talent. I feel like there's a lot of guilds that are like snatching up people, and if we don't like get a handle on that, I feel like we're going to miss out on like a big wave. Like Gridlocke could actually become really really big, bigger than it is right now, and also have like a whole bunch more people like constantly in here, especially with the amount of guild events that we do run, especially with the amount of avas that we run, especially with like the pull that we have and the money that we do make.
And I agree with you completely, where I'm like, there's definitely, because a lot of guilds are going through the same thing we are, where it's like even some of the European players or like Australian players are like ending up just playing more on the East server because better ping. Like, hey man, I can't exactly fault them for it, and so like there's a lot of people going through the same thing. But like to your point, I'm like one thing that and this is something that like we've talked about a little bit, is like like potentially an alliance could be a good way just to mingle with other NA timer people. The only problem is that there's risks and there's things to stuff like that too that can be problematic. Like we just had a meeting with another alliance actually right before this call. The only problem is, and you know they're all NA timers for the most part, but the biggest problem we have is that we have a really big advantage in our guild, and honestly, that big advantage is lost because he's able to run Avas, and that is actually a huge thing because this alliance we were just talking to today, they have like 860 people or something in their alliance, and they don't have the ability to really do Avas, at least not cleanly, and definitely not to the level we can, right? Which means that it's like if we want to join that alliance, 100% we can, right? But
Yeah,
the
they
amount
picked
of
up the moment that we brought up that I run up to 8.3 Evas.
yeah, but part of the issue is that the weight that puts on Lost is a little bit heavy in his ability, you know, because now he's got to like teach all these people how to do. He's got to teach them how to do Ava dungeons. He's got to teach them like the builds. He's got to teach them all this stuff, right? So like, it's a really difficult thing because I have to be like, hey, maybe we get along with these guys on a personality wise, you know, level, and maybe we don't. So maybe there's something to gain. We have this possible advantage of like we're friends with these guys and we get along and we grow stronger because we've done it. But also the cost of that is we're putting all that weight on Lost to teach and train these people, and you know, because I don't want to talk about it too much, but it's like we don't want a situation where I have to put too much weight on my shot callers or on Lost to train these people or to run events for them because I don't think that that's fair to them, right? So I don't want to like I don't want to join in an alliance and then have them not be doing anything and not have anything going for themselves and then force Griffin or force, you know, Lost or force Waters to be running events to kind of like provide content for them, right?
Okay. This is where I come to my next thing, which is I think that Law should make a shot caller camp. He should have a specific day that is set up so that he can specifically, so we can address possible things that well, not just, or we're not just addressing it, but also like train up like the shot callers. So have Connors, have Griffin, have Gale, have Waters, all these shot callers should just have a camp where we basically go over like Avas and stuff like that, or even just like going into like dungeons,
Right.
not just group dungeons but also static dungeons. Have like shot calling event for like for going into yellow zone faction warfare, because there's even, I remember there I was literally talking to this guy in the Ava Discord about how he basically he's looking for faction content. His name is Jalian. I still think that Law should do the Riz that guy.
Yeah.
That guy sounds good.
So a couple things. One, Shot Caller Boot Camp could be beneficial and pretty fun, but the main thing is unless I'm mistaken, I don't think any of our shot callers want to learn how to lead ABBAs. There was some interest, and then when I explained how complicated it actually is to run an ABBA, the interest died. Griffin, dope, I can teach you. It's 100% good. But that's the one main thing that, and that's also part of the reason why it's so rare to have a shot caller for an Ava, because it may not like always seem like it and look like it, but there's a lot to always be worried about in an Ava. Like mob pulls are easy, bosses are not. There's so much, and a lot of people just back away, or they learn it and then forget it and then turn into like a DLG situation.
I would be willing to participate in a flat 6 Ava just so that they can get experience with like a small squad of 10. So
I'm
willing to do that at any point in time.
Right, like
just
I would
in case they need like help.
Yeah, and I would offer that, of course. But the thing is like flat 6 versus 8.3, the only difference is the damage you're taking, and that is the easiest part of an AVA to deal with. That's not the hard part. The hard part is Bedivere rotation, Bedivere going on and off rotation, Dancing Queen defensive timers. Like, Priestess timing is the easiest thing you'll ever do in a dungeon, and it's still almost frame perfect, or you won't kill it. Like, it's one of those like it's like one of those weird balances where, like, I mean, if Griffin wants to learn, I'll teach Griffin. Like, it would be very nice to have another raid leader, but there is a reason that it's very rare for there to be Avalonian raid leaders in Albion just in general, and it's because of the simple fact of how difficult they are to actually raid lead.
So,
Yeah.
But back to your original point, yes, that is kind of an issue. It's just an issue everyone's going through, and so it's like an alliance could kind of help alleviate those pains a little bit of having some people, spending more attention to East server, right? So it's like that could be valuable, but yeah, it's almost an issue that we have that as something we can offer, because if that's it kind of allows us to be like, yeah, we can go up to a lot of a lot of alliances and be like, hey, this is something we can offer, and then be like, bam, they'll let us in for that because we have something to offer. But that's burden, and that's a weight on Lost, right? And with the Ava Discord, I mean, like, we'll see what Lost ends up doing with Ava Discord, or if he's just like, you know what, I'm just gonna focus on Guild and Alliance Avas instead, because who needs them? That's a possibility. And so it's in the talks, and we're still very early in the talks for that thing. But I hear you. Midas. I understand.
I do like the bootcamp idea, though. I think that's a very good thing, and we can go like from ground up, like, how to, because I guess that's another thing that's like really like weird about shot calling is like group dungeon shot calling, open world, ganking, small scale, static, Ava, ZVZ. Like, they're all very, very different types of shot calling. And we almost need to just do a boot camp so people can find their niche and then focus on their niche.
Yep.
Right.
Because like my niche is obviously Avas and small scale. Like, that is my niche. Like, I can do gank, I can do every event like fairly well, I would think. But my favorite things to do are small scale and now Hellgates. I do enjoy the Hellgates now that we have some comps that roll well. But small scale and Avas, and of course ZVZ. But ZVZ is a little bit on the horizon, just because what like true ZVZ is kind of just like an FPS battle half the time, because sometimes you'll see it in like big ZVZs, like when I would go out and like spectate stuff or watch the streams, is one group will just lag out of the game. So it's a very weird vibe to be in ZVZs.
Yeah. So so that's one thing, and I'm like, I think it would actually be a little easier for us if like we had like, say, Griffin, or we had somebody else who was perfectly capable of like raid leading an Ava dungeon. And I feel like that, like, even just one other person able to raid lead them might help Lost enough to be like, yeah, I'm okay with this, because here's the problem with that alliance, right? Is like, we met with them, and they seemed, at least the two guys we met with, seemed super nice. And like they had a lot of things that I was like, okay, like vibe check wise, like this is checking the boxes. But the problem is that we look at that and we're like, that's an alliance of like 800 people, and nobody can run an Ava dungeon. And then we come in and we're like, we can run Ava dungeons, and then
we come in and wave me around on a pedestal, like, hey, he's in the raid Discord, he runs 8.3. The amount of shit that will ensue.
Yeah, the amount of stuff that'll be like questions coming Lost way, and just like, like, is this build okay? Is this good? Is this, whatever? Like, just the amount of stuff that's going to head his direction from doing that is kind of a pain. So having that burden kind of split,
like it happening once, it would be the third, fourth time that it happened. So like, it's one of those like weird things, right? And a quality, the thing that Drew put into chat is very important, which is quality over quantity. Like, to be blunt, like, out of those 800 and whatever people, I'm not confident that we'll get more than like 20 to 30 that'll be solid players, because it's just how it works. Whereas Gridlocke, I'm confident in almost half of our guild, even though we only have like 100. I like where we're at currently, and I like how we're steadily growing. And like, the one thing I have with like random people, or like the people that are lonely on East and all this, like, yes, it could be good to potentially like do a recruiting campaign, but it's also good to steadily grow and steadily just get more quality people, because at the end of the day, you only need 20 to run an ABBA, 21 with a scout. At the end of the day, small scale can be done with 10 people. At the end of the day, a hideout placement can be done with like 25 to 30 people if you have 2 solid groups with 2 solid callers. And it can be regardless of however many are on the enemy side, strictly because of how the game is formatted. The game is very, very good about making you think numbers are everything, until you start learning the like core mechanics, learning comps, learning what fighting is in the black zone, and then you start to understand that 20 people in the right chokes with the right D-tanks and the right DPS that are using their abilities correct will take on an infinite amount of players. Like it is a very skill different spaced game when you actually get to the point where you're good at the game. You don't need these massive amounts of numbers. You don't need a massive guild. You don't need a massive alliance. You just need to train people to know what they're doing.
I 100% agree with that, and the only thing I will say is that yes, like going into an alliance with like basically like 800 people would be fucking crazy, and I don't want to stress you at all, which is why again I just want to reiterate having the shot callers being able to having at least one of the other shot caller being able to do Avas makes it so that the the guild has a constant flow of money, and it also has a constant flow of big events. So ZVZ in Yellow Zone always going to be a big event. I literally always seen at least like a 7 to 8 man turnout, no matter what, for a ZVZ Yellow Zone, and then I always see turnout for Avas, and Avas bring people. And if we have like one Ava during the weekend and then one Ava during the weekday, possibly like a Wednesday or even like a Friday, having that would bring like a lot of structure. And I think that having that as a plan, not like letting basically like negotiating for like having people going or having like multiple people running Avas at that specific time, and then having that be like the thing that we bring to them as, hey, we have multiple people that can run an Ava competently enough that you guys don't waste too much money.
Mm-hmm.
And doing that, I
We
think,
spent the
will
money,
actually
so you don't have to.
I know, but I don't want you guys to spend money.
No. I was more saying how we lost a lot of money when we were learning Avas.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
even just on repair bills, not even counting wipes.
I remember.
Repair bills were a lot. But
I remember the 4 repair tables per dungeon.
But yeah, we haven't even 100% made up our mind with this guild or with this alliance we talked to. I'm like, the other thing is too is like, I will say that I'm like, there's like 800 people in the alliance, right? And there's like 8 to 10 guilds, but in reality there's like 2 or 3 guilds.
4. I think we counted
Maybe
4
4
with 100 or more.
4, but one of them is like a Chinese guild. So like,
Doesn't make sense.
it's like I don't know how much that actually is going to factor in, but like a lot of most of their guilds are just like 20 to 30 people, and you're like, I don't know, like it just feels like dead weight to me.
The other thing that was like another big thing is it plays off of both of your guys' points. Is quite simply like a lot of these players, like there's gonna be NA guilds that were mixed in with like Vua or Sun or a lot of these big guilds. Not Sun. Sun didn't move, but like there's gonna be these like leftover guilds that have like 20 to 30 people that are decent players, have done ZVZ, have done Avas, that are going to be left over when a big alliance moves to East. I would much rather grab those players than get into a giant alliance. Because the biggest vibe that I got off of the alliance that kind of threw me off is it kind of just feels like they're doing the we want more numbers, we want more numbers, we want more numbers, and they're just grabbing every possible guild that will say yes.
And that's why, like, we kind of talked to them, and they were also primarily most of their content that they do is actually in the roads. And I mostly told them
Like
that I'm like,
95%.
we're not interested in a hideout in the roads, really. And like, I can't even promise that, like, if you are going to attack a hideout or something in the roads, that like we would have that many people show up, because I feel like primarily our player base likes Black Zone more, right? And that's what we want to do. So I'm like, I can't even promise that like the things you want to do, that we would be there for them, right? So so that was a little bit of an issue, is that they were like all roads content at the moment. They do have one hideout in the Black Zone, though, I will say, but
They're
they
letting it
said
die.
that they don't use it, and it just kind of
Yeah.
sits there.
They're letting it die.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
The other, like, it just...
What?
But
How do you do
The other
roads
thing is
content?
there's so many. So the main, like, one of the leadership was in the Black Zone for like 3 to 4 years and was just like burnt out from it. And I think that's the vibe I get from the whole alliance is they just do whatever the newest content is. Right now it's roads. So I don't think it really lines up with like what we want to do because we want to get, good at everything. And honestly, like, I'm confident in the guild to where, like, in my opinion, I think it's a much cooler and a much more amazing achievement. Like, if we can hold our own in the Black Zone as a guild, not an alliance, like, that automatically puts us in, like, the top 10% of just overall. Because most guilds will need an alliance, and I believe we're at the point where at the end of the month placement, we'll get it down no problem. Like, sure, there'll be deaths and stuff, but I'm a lot more confident in our ability, and I think it's a lot more satisfying to be like, yeah, our guild did that. No alliance, our guild did that, and now we're holding that, and it's ours.
yeah, I even told them that I was like if we were to go ahead with the alliance, I'm like, we wouldn't even necessarily be asking you to like
I wouldn't ask.
send people to our hideout because this is something we want to do on our own and we want to earn it. So, like that's not something we would be like, because I feel like if they planned an event, they could probably send us a good like 30, 40 people.
Yeah.
But like then they wouldn't feel earned. I feel like I don't know if other people share that sentiment, but it would be so much more satisfying to do it ourselves.
The other thing
Even if
that
we went ahead
I
with it.
failed to mention in the meeting mostly is it also sounds like I would be pulled into true ZVZ shot calling because they did not sound like they're very confident in their actual like carry calling.
Like actually, yeah, they're
Like
big
actual
fans.
huge ZVZ and Terry calling, it sounds like they were completely out of their realm. And the moment they heard that I was comfortable calling that kind of stuff, it sounds like if this did happen, it would be the Ava issue, and then it would be I'd be pulled into ZVZ calling. And like ZVZ calling is kind of fun. I've only done it like twice, but it's really kind of just boring. Like if I'm gonna be honest, if your like heart, dream, and goal is to get into a giant 80v80 in Albion, it's the most boring shit ever. And I'll tell you why. For every damage call, there's 6 defensives and a lag out. For every 3 damage calls, the one party's gonna fucking crash. And then the one time that, somehow all 6 to 10 of your defensives in the clump, nobody presses a Judy or a Knight Armor or a Knight Helmet or a Demon Armor, you wipe, and then you push back and repeat. It's not a very, like, small scale is so much more fun because it's so much more interactive. ZVZ is just, it's not it. Unless that's your thing, and that's cool, but it's not as exciting as it seems when you actually...
Not Lost's thing, anyways.
Yeah, not my thing, and like honestly, the other thing is like we do have a lot of mobile players. I'm gonna tell you now, if you're on mobile and you try to go to a ZVZ, your phone's gonna blow up. Like it'll straight break. It crashes on computers. It's gonna be rough.
Probably. So I'm like, so that's the thing is I'm like, we're shopping for an alliance. It's it's a possibility of something we do, but I'm like that's the thing too is I'm like if I could finagle, like I would be more open to this alliance to these guys we talked to if like I could swing a sort of thing where it's like, okay, we're gonna join, but we're mostly gonna stay to ourselves for a minute and just kind of feel them out, right? Like maybe like Lost
wish we
isn't
could
going to
do that
do any teaching. He's not going to do anything like that. Like we're just going to like we'll run Avas and then your guys can come along and we'll see some of your events and we'll come along or maybe we'll do something like that. And we'll just kind of feel out personality wise how we feel first. But that feels like a hard thing to like sell to be like we kind of want to join you but do nothing for a while, right? Like that's a little difficult of a sell. But that's also I haven't had that conversation with them yet, so maybe it's possible. Who knows?
Also, I don't want a new car syndrome it. Because if you've ever gone to buy a car, the first car you see and look at and like should almost never be the car you purchase. And this is the first alliance we've seriously talked about since Chronic Smokers, so I don't want new car syndrome to take over. Because there are a lot of alliances. There are also a lot of guilds out there to where it could be a guild that's very similar to ours, especially now that NA timers are going to be predominant on West. There's a very high likelihood that we find a guild that's very similar, not massive, and would be a really good fit. Like I don't want to bite the first thing that comes out.
Yeah,
That's totally fair. All right, thank you.
Of course.
Does anybody else have anything? Anything they want to bring up?
More Hellgates, please. I enjoyed the Hellgates. I also do love. I really wish I would have recorded that because that was one of the cleanest Hellgates. People were dying before they hit the ground. And that's also why I just have a lot more confidence overall, is like the damage clap. For reference, for anyone who didn't come, we did some 10v10 Hellgates. We only got into one fight, but halfway through like one of the non-lethal ones before we went to lethal one, I was like, okay, I want all the damage calls to go before they hit the ground of my power geyser. That is 0.8 seconds there in the air. By the end of it, yes, Peppa, we actually killed 10 Pora people, only lost one person, and then on the way back, the same Pora group tried to gank us. We killed them. We hid in a solo dungeon, and then I went back out and baited them again, and we killed 2 more, all from Pora. We farmed them for like 40 mil. But anyways, our damage calls are getting infinitely better. I remember a time when I could do damage and a countdown, and I could count to 10 before I'd see any kind of damage fall, and yesterday the damage was hitting in that 0.8 seconds before they hit the ground. Which instantly makes any fight that we're a part of significantly better, because, like in the hideout fight, one of the first air compresses I got, if the damage was that quick, the North group would have been gutted, would have had no tanks, would have been down like 2 healers and 3 DPS, I think. Like, I air compressed half their group, and they didn't have a Judy on it. If our damage call was as quick as it was in the Hellgates, then instantly we would have gutted that North group and only had one group to worry about. Plus a rat group, but no one cares about a rat group unless you're losing people.
But yes, junior shot callers do need to hit their 10 events if they want to like step up to that. Waters is really close though, I will say. He's at like 6 or 7, I think, out of 10. So yeah, he's almost there.
And we get to do the promo.
And then yep. So yeah, if there's no other questions.
Some people are typing, so I don't.
Some people are typing.
Yeah, I'd give it a little bit. Yes, we will HQ at Darkness.
Yep. Assuming we get it down, it'll be turned into an HQ.
Vendor, what's Albion a game of?
Drugs. Cocaine.
Confidence. When
Ritalin.
we get it down, we will HQ it. Also Ritalin. Ritalin helps. Yeah, Drew. I'm going to probably plan a few...
One thing, too, that these guys said is that they were like, yeah, we could totally scrim against them as well.
So yeah,
even if we don't alliance with them, we might be able to be like, hey, let's set up a scrim and fight.
The other thing that I would really like, and I think would be a really cool thing, because joining that big of an alliance does seem like not the best thing, but obviously there needs to be more discussion. We need to ask more questions from them and get more specifics. But one of the best possible outcomes that I can see is having an 800-person alliance to scrim ZVZ against in faction warfare. To, you know, oh, these people do want to do AVAs. Let them have access to the Discord, or maybe we make a specific AVA Discord for, you know, Gridlocke and then Gridlocke and friends, and, you know, just kind of be like yeah, our players mingle, but we're not in an alliance.
Could be.
So there's a lot of like different routes.
Which is yet again where I was like, well, maybe we just like at that point you're like, you might as well just make it an alliance. But the only problem is you just need to. We'd have to properly set expectations about our burden that would be put on us, right?
Yeah.
Because like at that point, if you're going to scrim against them and be in a Discord server with them and everything anyways, then you might as well just do it, because the in-game like effects of being in an alliance really don't change anything as far as that's concerned, because like they'll provide enough season points to us and we'll provide to them. Like honestly, season point wise, it's basically a break-even scenario, right? So it's not a huge deal there. It's just a matter of setting proper expectations if we decide to do it, but it's yeah.
And yeah, Midas, it was really frustrating, but now I'm confident as long as like the damage calls stay quick. Like that fight would have been so different if the first like air compressor at like 12 people, if they die, we win that fight every time, because then one group's gutted and they have like 6 DPS that are just fucking twiddling
that one clap killing that suddenly gives us the numbers advantage in that fight, even though there was multiple groups.
We do that, and then I will instantly go for the rat group, and then all of a sudden we're in one group versus one group.
Yep. And that one group was actually smaller than us.
Darkness Spiked is not an Ava build. Do you mean for ZVZ? No, for the HO. What do you mean?
Like Gauntlets is good.
Yeah, for the event. Okay, so the event tonight's an Ava, but yes, for the hideout placement, yes. Then you can do the double Hellion Spiked Gauntlets.
All right. Cool. Any other questions? Anything else? That looks like a no.
I don't buy it. I think they have secrets.
They have secrets.
Yup, more people are typing.
God damn it, Midas. God.
I thought you were walking funny.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to probably wrap up the State of the Guild address. Thank you, everyone, for coming. There's a Ava dungeon in like an hour and 15 minutes.
Yep.
So sign up. Let's make some money. And I will see you all later.